Hi everyone, the question a lot of people have been thinking about for a while now is if and when we might see a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the UK. At a time when the US is continuing its pro-crypto approach, through executive orders, the first White House crypto summit to ever take place, the SEC dropping multiple legal cases against crypto firms, etc., that I have covered in previous videos, and you can find the link to the latest one here and in the description, because HM Treasury in the UK has actually stated its position on a potential strategic Bitcoin reserve. So that's what we'll be looking at in this video, as well as some of the people who are putting themselves out there, doing a great job advocating for pro-crypto regulation and a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the UK. So please do like the video and subscribe to the channel so I can continue to offer more content for you in future. If you follow our social media channels on X, Facebook and Instagram, you'll receive daily crypto and financial education news update posts which will keep you informed. Stick around to the end of this video to find out what services Coin Knowledge offers. Just a quick reminder that nothing contained here is financial advice, and let's jump straight in. Firstly, just to zoom out a bit and put the UK into perspective in terms of the Bitcoin it already holds, the UK is the country with the third largest holding of Bitcoin currently, after the US and China, holding 61,245 Bitcoin, which is 0.292% of the maximum 21 million Bitcoin that can ever exist, at a value of about $5.11 billion at the time of recording this video, which is about £3.9 billion. It obviously got this Bitcoin having seized it following criminal proceedings, but the questions many of us have had for a while is, what will the UK do with this Bitcoin? Will it add to this holding, store it as a reserve over the long term, or will it sell it? Like Germany did, for example, when it sold about 50,000 Bitcoin in June to July 2024 at an average price of $57,600, when that Bitcoin was worth about $2.88 billion, with this now being worth nearly $4.2 billion. So they would have had about $1.5 billion more of this asset Bitcoin now if they didn't sell. And that's not taking into account the all-time high price that we had, which would have obviously been more, or even the future growth of Bitcoin. But the US also admitted in its White House statement in March that it lost a potential $17 billion by selling some of its BTC, but they're obviously now looking to implement a strategic Bitcoin reserve moving forward. So what are the UK's plans? Well, firstly, let's take a look at the work that Bitcoin Policy UK is doing, which is a non-profit organisation focused on advocating for Bitcoin in the UK, with a particular emphasis on policy, mining and education, with Freddie, the Chief Policy Officer and co-founder at Bitcoin Policy UK, who frequently speaks at events promoting Bitcoin wherever possible for the UK, and is a good person to follow if you're interested. Well, Freddie and Bitcoin Policy UK wrote to Emma Reynolds, the new Economic Secretary to the Treasury, and therefore who's now in charge of crypto in the UK, in November 2024, with the Treasury responding to this on the 18th of February 2025, as you can see part of here, saying that the seized Bitcoin that the UK holds, that I mentioned earlier, falls under the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002 legislation, meaning it's for independent law enforcement bodies and for the courts to consider, with the Treasury confirming that it has no current plans to amend this legislation to centrally hold the Bitcoin in the Treasury as a fund or as a reserve, with the letter going on to confirm that the UK Treasury holds no Bitcoin itself and doesn't view Bitcoin as a suitable reserve asset for the UK, mainly due to historically being a highly volatile asset relative to stable fiat currencies like the US dollar and commodities such as gold. So this is the UK government confirming in February 2025 that it holds no Bitcoin itself, that it doesn't plan to change this, and doesn't see Bitcoin as being suitable to hold in a reserve over the long term, citing its volatility. And I'd struggle to find the words to respond to this, which in my opinion simply shows a lack of ambition, desire to innovate, and even knowledge and education. Because yes, Bitcoin is obviously volatile, as we all know, but what happens to its price over the long term as an asset with a fixed supply and increasing demand? Well, if we look at some evidence and detail behind this, the UK government apparently seized the crypto wallets to nearly all of the Bitcoin it currently holds back in 2018, with them not gaining access to this until 2021, with the price of this 61,000 BTC being worth about £305 million back in October 2018, and then about £1.8 billion by the time they accessed it in May 2021, for it now to be worth over £3.9 billion at the time of recording this video, with its all-time high price being over £5.4 billion in January 2025. So it's proven itself to be a good store of value over the long term, outperforming other assets, with you admittedly needing to zoom out and ignore the volatility. But Freddie New and Bitcoin Policy UK then responded to HM Treasury's letter on the 13th of March 2025, addressing several of the points it makes in its letter, including volatility, the positive approach that the US is taking, and offering to share its knowledge and expertise with the government. So it will be interesting to see what they come back with no real expectation in terms of a change in approach, unfortunately, in my opinion. And this wasn't actually the first time, because on the 9th of December 2024, Lord Elliott, who's a Conservative, tabled a question asking whether the UK government would establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. This was then answered by Lord Livermore, who's the Financial Secretary to the Treasury, and therefore Labour, who said on the 19th of December that Bitcoin is highly volatile, making it unsuitable as a reserve asset for the UK, meaning that the government has no plans at all to adopt a strategic Bitcoin reserve, with this being almost exactly the same, word for word, as the letter that Bitcoin Policy UK received a couple of months later. But there are other advocates for Bitcoin and crypto in the UK, such as CryptoUK, for example, which is the leading trade association for digital and crypto assets, which works with the UK government, policymakers and regulators, including the FCA, HM Treasury, HMRC and the Bank of England, with the aim of the UK actually being a global leader in crypto asset technology. And there are over 100 members that CryptoUK supports, with several meetings taking place during the year. Bitcoin Policy UK and CryptoUK actually announced towards the end of March that they were partnering to promote Bitcoin policy in the UK in order to try to position the UK as a global leader. We also have Stand with Crypto in the UK, which is the UK's branch of the US organisation, which also has branches in Australia and Canada, by the way. And Stand with Crypto in the UK has recently launched its 2025 nationwide tour, taking place in Edinburgh, Newcastle, York, Liverpool, Nottingham, Bristol, Cardiff, Bath, Exeter, London and Brighton. Then, for a bit more of a specific one, there's Recap, a UK-based crypto tax software led by CEO Dan Howitt, who's an advocate for Bitcoin and crypto in the UK. And Recap wrote to HM Treasury in February 2025 in a joint letter that was signed by Dan Howitt, the CEO of Recap, Freddie New, who we saw earlier from Bitcoin Policy UK, Dion Seymour, Crypto Technical Director at Anderson, Suzanne Morsefield, the Head of Policy at CryptoUK, which again we also saw earlier, Simon Jennings, the Managing Director of the UK Crypto Asset Business Council, and many other exchanges and crypto firms, such as Coinbase, Kraken, Uphold, CoinPass, etc. And they mention in their letter a general lack of clarity over a number of years now on tax in DeFi. For example, through crypto lending, possibly implementing a no gain, no loss rule for tax purposes, staking, etc., as they look to remove unfair tax triggers that hold back crypto innovation in the UK and treat DeFi like traditional securities. And they received a quite general response, unfortunately, towards the end of March from MP James Murray, the Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury, who simply noted the concerns shared, thanked those who wrote the letter, and highlighted potential opportunities for the UK financial services sector brought by crypto assets, and said that the government will take the comments on board in considering next steps, and will respond to the industry on the taxation of DeFi lending and staking in due course. There's also Jordan Walker, who was asked to speak with the Scottish Government after writing to the First Minister in December 2024. And this took place in March 2025, where Jordan submitted a formal proposal to set up an expert reference group, or ERG, specifically for Bitcoin, and on how Scotland can attract the Bitcoin industry in financial services, investment and business attraction, and in the energy sector. With this proposal now having circulated to members of the Digital Assets ERG, which includes the Deputy President of the UK Supreme Court. Also in the UK, there's Robin, the Bitcoin and crypto accountant, who set up a Bitcoin roundtable that started in 2024 to bring industry experts together to discuss Bitcoin policy and plans moving forward in the UK. So there are many people and firms out there in the UK doing some great work, pushing HM Treasury, the FCA, the UK government to officially recognise Bitcoin and the digital asset or cryptocurrency industry, to essentially wake up, actually educate themselves on this, and see the opportunities out there for the UK, rather than bury their head in the sand, as they've seemingly been doing for years now. When we had Rishi Sunak all the way back in April 2022, stating his aim to make the UK a global hub for crypto asset technology, when he was the Chancellor under Boris Johnson, and then obviously becoming Prime Minister himself. But that was 3 years ago now, and very little has been done to achieve this aim, or seemingly encourage innovation in the UK. For example, using any excess energy there might be for Bitcoin mining, which would have a further economic benefit, to bring the Bitcoin held by the UK into the Treasury and officially recognise it, to sort the FCA out so it actually encourages crypto companies to come to the UK, and we have pro-digital asset regulation, and we actually support innovation, growth, new technology, etc. in the UK, because ultimately, at the moment, there are no plans for a Bitcoin or crypto reserve in the UK, unfortunately. But that ends this video, and as always, I'd love to know what you think about the state of crypto and Bitcoin in the UK in the comments. Just a reminder that if you're interested in more of a tailored approach to your crypto education, and you think you'd benefit from having someone look over your shoulder and guide you on your journey, I do offer one-to-one coaching to those who have the desire and the means to educate themselves further. And there are links in the description where you can message me and book in a free video call to see if we'd be a good fit. You can sign up for a free account with Coinly using the link in the description to this video, which is one of the best automated crypto tax platforms out there. If you're looking for more specific crypto tax advice based on your personal circumstances, I've partnered with a leading UK crypto tax company in Miner, which is part of the company Nephos, that offers other services such as wealth management, restructuring, offshoring, etc. But I'll leave a link to contact them directly in the description to this video. If you're based in the US and are looking for specific crypto tax advice based on your personal circumstances, I've partnered with a leading US crypto tax company in crypto tax audit. And again, I'll leave a link to contact them directly in the description to this video. I've also included a link to Trezor's website in the description for anyone looking for one of the best hardware wallets or cold storage out there, with 2 new models released recently in the Trezor Safe 3 and Trezor Safe 5 that I actually did a video on recently. You can find the link to here and in the description. And finally, if you're looking for a portfolio tracker for your crypto portfolio, then I've included a link to CoinStats in the description to this video, which is the leading crypto and Bitcoin tracker on the market. And if you found this content interesting, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it really does help. And have a great day.